And we're live. Welcome to Redspin Sports. Wanted to start off real quick with this Juventus women's tweet that happened today. And both Nate and Mike haven't seen this story, so we're going to get some live reaction to this. So we're going to start right in with this is the only tweet, if you go to their page right now, that you'll find about this. And it's just, we sincerely apologize that our tweet, which was not meant to cause controversy or have any racial undertones, may have offended anyone. Juventus has always been against racism and discrimination. And of course, the very first comment you will find under it is a screenshot of the tweet.
Look at that.
They apologize if this has any racial undertones.
Well, I mean, of course, I'm sure they just thought the utility of the hat was good for like blocking the sun, right? I don't know. Mike, why don't you holler at that real quick?
I think it's an excellent tweet to showcase the dangers of too much sun in your eye.
Vietnamese engineering prowess, right?
Right.
Yeah. This
actually,
I mean, go ahead.
Fearless tweet, it's trying to showing solidarity with Ho Chi Minh and Vietnamese.
The apology to me sounds like they're kind of apologizing if you were offended, right? Like they're like, we sincerely apologize that our tweet, which by the way was not in any way controversial or had racial undertones, may have offended you out there, the person who stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
I
always like that one, the whole if you're offended. Like, like I'm only writing this like, if you're offended. Like, because it's like the implication is like, shut up, snowflake, like
here's the other part about the Juventus tweet. Look at the emojis that they put into the tweet.
Yeah. Like what they got, like the dueling, like bam bam bam, 10 Stabler guns like firing off at each other there with the laughing emoji.
Yeah.
Like I said Ken Stabler for a reason. He used to come out there and be like bam 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 bam, back in the day. But a lot of people probably I don't know. Jeffrey, I don't know if he'll be old enough to remember old Kenny the Snake Stabler, but that's wild though, man. I mean,
just and the culture of the apology, then with the long hashtag, right? Like the fight hate together or whatever.
Fight hate together. I like that. I mean, my biggest buzzword I'm really a fan of now is like just the awareness. It's like everything's awareness, like mental health awareness. It's like so awareness. It's like, well, okay, like what good does it do to be aware? If like awareness. It's a major, one of the biggest European football clubs, like soccer clubs. I mean, in Italy especially, they're like, hugely popular. They're like up there with they'd be equivalent to some of the biggest brands in the US and like major sports. I mean, think like the Dodgers. And this is their women's club. So it was the official account of their women's club. That was one of their players who threw a cone on her head. And that happened this afternoon. That like just went around, but that apology and the emptiness behind it, right? Like the fact that you have to say phrases like, we're sorry for the racial undertone. Like, how is that undertone? Like, I don't. Well, did they really think that'd go viral and like the way that they wanted? Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, why not just admit that, like, instead of that, just be like double down and be like, we don't understand. We do not think this is offensive, and that's not how we meant it. But it's like, which would be crazy too. But like, it's also it'd be a little more honest than this whole like BS, like corporate sort of PR strategy response you get, which is it's always the one that goes like, if you were offended, like it's a plug and play type deal there. I don't know. I mean, I also was checking out. There are a few things that were hit my radar, such as UNC Chapel Hill is one among other schools that are helping the surveillance of college athletes. So in terms of their making sure they're in classes and stuff, that's definitely a thing. And I'll go ahead and pull this up here. I brought it up.
Yeah, so what's Nathan Coleman Lamb tweeted this out earlier today, and God, too many buttons to press here. All right, yeah. So look, I mean, this is like Spotter EDU beacons in classrooms, right? So this is like, because here we have evidence in the form of an email from a senior vice provost of UNC engineering faculty. Complicity in the surveillance and without attendant discipline of campus athletic workers via both technology and athletic department employees. So I'll just read real quick from this. It goes, update on Spotter EDU beacons in classrooms. I'm writing to provide you, this is again the UNC senior vice provost, provide you an update on Spotter EDU beacons in classrooms. Next week, university staff will be entering classroom buildings to perform routine maintenance, blah, blah, blah. And it's like all this is being done, of course, is to confirm the class attendance of student athletes within a given course. Spotter EDU is a beacon technology platform that focuses on supporting student athletes and promoting academic success through relentless monitoring of their whereabouts. To utilize the technology, a student must download and install an application on their phone. Opt in. Of course, if you opt out, like we're just going to assume you'd never go to class, right? And use Bluetooth to communicate to the beacon that they are present in a given classroom. Beacon, I'm present. Beacon, I'm here, right? It'd be like talking to Alexa, right? These beacons do not have GPS tracking capability, nor do they track student athletes outside of classrooms. All right. We'll see about that. And just sort of the way that, like, Amazon and Google don't technically track you, right, when you're, giving them permission. But at the same time, in order to use a lot of these apps, like, of course, they are tracking you. So it's a little bit of BS. So anyways, that's going down. I just think that we're going to see this more and more. I mean, it's like, the kind of the idea of just surveillance doing something that, has, when you just put it in the context of attendance, it seems pretty benign, but then ultimately, has a lot more capabilities that are packed into that you don't necessarily have to, that you have plausible deniability, right, with too. So
it's sort of like somewhat of an experimentation on workers, tried on the athletes. I mean, like a lot of medical professionals, like nurses, they have trackers, quote unquote, that pings their like a patient room, right? And it supposedly doesn't track them, but those things fuck up. But of course, management uses that to discipline nurses. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you weren't in your fucking room. Use a write up.
Oh, so, yeah.
No doubt, this is going to be used in the same fashion, and it's just just pretty. It's just part of this kind of as like automation in general, is a subject, that, has seen the displacement of a lot of workers due to the fact that automation is not in the hands of the working class, and it's in the hands of the ruling class, the corporate CEOs who use automation to downsize labor and save money on, not paying actual people. So automation in this sense, and technology advancement is being used to experiment and track, student workers, or student athletes, as they call them, to make sure they're in class. And it's no doubt, there is no, we want to make sure they're in class to get their degree. It's more of we want to make sure they're in class, they're eligible to get on the field in the fall. They're collegiate athletes.
The people that are worried about checking class for, that's definitely what it is. I mean,
right.
I mean, I don't know. We gotta like.
It's one of those things that, like, it's one of those things that if you had like an actual like college, like football or a collegiate athlete like players union, it's one of those things that they could actually stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you're not gonna track my whereabouts in class. You should. Right. You track my whereabouts in class by looking at my grade at the end of the semester. That's kind of like
that's not going to fly with coaches, man. Like,
100%.
They'd be like, you're here, like, and we're just going to find out right before a bowl game or a playoff whether or not you've been doing the class.
So you're telling me that if this spot tracker, whatever they call it, if it's Sam Howell, Sam Howell missed half of his classes, you think Mac Brown's going to bench him? you know?
Yeah,
there would be an intervention well before it ever got to that point. First of all, yeah,
or they'll give a student. Oh shit! Why doesn't a player like give a kid like their cell phone when they go to class? You know?
Oh yeah, that's
My
going to
burner
start happening.
phone. Right.
Just like with these vaccine mandates, they're going to be like a whole cottage industry of like, of different people just wearing fake identities, right? People dressing up as other people, like, doing all sorts of stuff. Like, it's just going to be, especially New York City rolling this out here in the next month or two. And I don't know how y'all feel about it. I think it's like, the idea that this government having that degree of, tracking ability over people's movements is not something that, it's authoritarian in my opinion. But
I'm talking about the vaccine mandate.
Yeah, I just don't trust like this government to be in charge of that kind of.
Yeah. We're already at a spot where, like, they've taken surveillance and sold it to you willingly, and you put it in your pocket and you carry it around. They've sold audio devices and then you just put them in your house. You know what I mean? Like, we're already to that point, where like they got us to do that for them. And, little thing about that real quick is that, for that time I spent at that horrible company in Seattle, there's not a conference room. There's not a conference room in that company that doesn't have an A lady. That's what I call her, so they don't go off in people's homes. They don't have that device, like an Echo device, in every conference room, and there's not a single conference room where they're not muted, which means the people who go around mute them in all the conference rooms, and that's because they will tell you these things don't listen unless you trigger it. No, they do all the time. That's why they're muted in every conference room at the company who makes them. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
No, absolutely. And I don't know, Mike, you want to respond before we go on to this next story here? Go ahead.
Well, I guess on the quickly on the vaccine mandate, I definitely share the sentiment in regards. I do think, I think the federal government has trillions of dollars in its ability to print money, just pay people to take the vaccine. That seemed like a much logical application.
They already are. They are doing that in New York City. Like, okay, come get $100. Yeah. Like,
right. We'll pay them more. It's just one of those situations in which I think I've had to negotiate a contract for medical workers in which I had to reject a mandatory vaccination item that was put on the bargaining table. And I had to do that because the workers were so much against it.
I talked to people all the
within the working class is against it. Now, and I talked to your cousin Dave about this other day. Actually, yesterday, it was a good conversation. And my whole point was, I think the apprehension towards vaccinations from the working class comes from a point of ignorance and the standpoint of a lack of education. Unions haven't done a good job of educating the members of society as a whole. You've had right-wing politicians literally diving into the sphere of vaccinations, which has incepted this idea, but also just in general, the idea of mandating, like the ruling class wants, a section of the ruling class wants a mandate, the other section doesn't. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The ruling class is united on this vaccination being the key towards, social interaction, which is needed under capitalism to buy products and make the money needs to happen. The problem is the ruling class has incepted this individualist, liberalism spirit, through education, through institutions into the working class, which in turn, which is why, the United States has one of the weakest labor movements in the world, which is why the workers are so divided and exploited, is because of, ruling class ideology. It's fucking crazy to me that the same type of individualist spirit that the ruling class incepted is also the reason why they can never get over COVID.
But also
this same kind of attitude towards fearing the government or fearing whatever the government puts out, which in a lot of ways has like a progressive component depending on who's it comes from. But just in general, the same kind of things that they've used to divide the working class and have them fighting against each other is also the same thing which is why you can't get rid of COVID-19. You know what I'm saying? Because they accepted this.
And there's also people that like we all know, and you know, and that I respect, and the people that I mean, I don't that are on the left, and without a doubt that just will never are not getting vaccinated, and like will and like are healthy, extreme, and like work, and they just like they literally like, because I talked to a few people, like I'm not going to mention their name, but like had issues like didn't have period and stuff after getting it. I mean, I got it. I didn't have anything really happen to me, but I'm also not going to sit here and just like lump everybody who doesn't want to get it, and it's like just being like in that category, because like that type of people, they're just the ignorant stuff. But I don't know. It's like I don't know how I feel. It's like I talk to some people, then it makes me think like, yeah, those people should just fall in line. But then I'm like, I don't know, like So I mean, I struggle with it. But there's certain people that are. I mean, y'all hear what Bryson DeChambeau said? Yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, honestly, what he said is like very similar to what like a lot of people I know and respect say though. Like that, I mean, not about like the older people. Like it's obviously not a scarcity issue in the U.S., but in terms of just like I'm healthy and I'm young. I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I got it. I mean, but I think people should get it. But I'm also, I can't act like it's just a few like random yahoos that are just like, it's a wider range of people I know that are like that. Man,
to Mike's point though about that, like that capitalist hypocrisy, right? Like this is why, like this is the one thing I'll always find hope in, and I'll always find hope in the fact that like capitalism literally can't sustain because it'll always run into these kinds of things, right? Like on a long enough timeline, it runs into something where its own ideology forces, like it's not survival, like we're in that point. So like just to your point, Mike, like that's where I do find positivity in the fact that like capitalism can't last forever because it will always run into these things where it's like its own ideology will get in its way from letting it get past something.
It's like what did Lenin say? Like Lenin said that the capitalists will sell you the rope for which you to hang them with. So it's like capitalism like has created the conditions for revolution due to its everyday behavior. Like capitalism is a very short-term, self-centered, individualist thinking, and you just long-term can't run a collective society based on that, especially as like shit, you got like a bigger working class, you got more social production. It's really difficult to do that. So kind of back and it's not necessarily like ignorant. I mean, you gotta look at it like, like how many people, let's say in fucking like in Cuba or in China, are like anti-vax or are refusing the vaccination. You know what I'm saying? They're like, it's like they've been conditioned differently through institutions that support collective uplift. You know what I'm saying? But in the United States, it's all about the individual. Your right, your ability to do whatever the fuck you want to do, even if you have no property, no money,
right?
You know what I mean?
But I know some people that are like, I mean, I want to name, but I'm not going to say it right now. But like they like don't think like that at all, and like just do not trust pharmaceutical companies and stuff. Like, and I don't, and just like heard stories, and they just don't want to get it.
But it's one of those things that. So let's say, I'm black. Black people have had a long experience with like not trusting government institutions and like pharmaceutical companies. Tuskegee syphilis experiment. It wasn't like they gave people shit. It's because they didn't treat people who had syphilis. They used black people as an experiment.
Yeah.
Like I understand people who don't trust pharmaceutical companies because they are evil, right? In the sense that they are about profit. But you live in under capitalism. So if you have a government that needs a vaccination, they're going to give the contract to the pharmaceutical company, probably one that's really fucked up. But the other thing is like I think the way to look at it is, like the ruling class is getting vaccinated.
Yeah, it's not like they're like breaking off special boxes of these shipments.
Right.
And like we got to make sure this box, only this box gets brought to like a black neighborhood, right? And then this is the one going to like the Upper East Side. That's like nice. That's the one where they're not going to die. Wink, wink. Delivering that. Like I mean that would be. some epic like eugenics on steroid type like administration of a policy you'd have to have, man. Like, so I mean, I agree. I think people should get it. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, been since like I don't know March. But you know, I also like understand.
I understand like
society where people are gaslit constantly and like you know it's like
trust me,
sort of. But
every day I have to represent men.
Yeah,
I represent legit anti-vaxxers, bro, who work at who work in medical field. So it's like
right. I mean,
so it's like it's just weird, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
trust me. I know
because you're right. You think of like labor movements, like we gotta like make sure our employers are gonna protect us. So like, man, bump that. Like, and you're like, they're negotiating, and they're out there screaming
weird,
like, no. And then the employers are like, sweet, all right, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
I mean, if the employers want to mandate the vaccination, they can do it, and they can take all the blame. You know, don't blame it on the union. I mean, shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's like, here's the thing: it's like unions represent like a wide variety of ideologies within the working class. So let's say a union ever goes out publicly supporting mandatory vaccinations. I mean, shit. You just like let's say 10% of the membership is heavily anti-vax, which it probably is in the working class. You know, like what's the percentage you would think of the working class is probably against vaccinations? I mean, shit, man. It's like half.
At least half, yeah.
Right. So let's say you do that. You will lose half your membership because to this shit, like the vaccination to people is just weird, bro. It's just as big as their retirement. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like it's just kind of
There's something about it, man. I can't exactly put my finger on it, other than the things we've mentioned already about the way we don't have Medicare for all, we don't have a national health system, we have all these things that like okay, if you want us to trust like what the healthcare industry is saying, or what like the U.S. government's saying. Well, then why would they have a system like this, right? That contribute to people like having these sort of, these kernels of skepticism that then start to, grow a little bit. They kind of like people start coming together, talking a little bit more, comparing, contrasting their experiences, and so there's this general angst about like that things aren't right, that we're not, we're being screwed over and whatnot, which is true in like in many different ways, but like, and then coupling that with people's own anxieties. And then being like in a society where we have private media companies that just spew whatever's like good for their bottom line and what their advertisers, want. And you have a big hodgepodge of people that don't really, see things.
One last question on that.
Yeah.
Do you think that the NFL is actually 90% vaccinated? Because I see that, and I'm just like,
well, I mean, there's a lot of DeAndre Hopkins, out there, and Cole Beasley.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, at least I'm sorry, it is kind of funny. Like, because he like last year was all like, yeah, I'm a warrior, like I'll wear this mask like because they want me to. But it's like I'm not. It's like he's like thinking of himself as like a biblical prophet, and like he's sort of like Old Testament prophet, like Joshua or something. It's out there in direct conversation with God, and God is like giving him strength and courage to go out and fight virus, knock it down, and like rise up with his teammates. And he's got to be this like Norse Viking warrior, like actually for the Minnesota Vikings, right? And so he's got to be that like dude. He's got to be that dude, right? Who has no fear, right? No virus can take me down. That's the mindset of Kirk Cousins right there. Anyways, in inspirational stuff. So I watched T-34 today, and you want to like I'm gonna play a trailer here. Redspin Sports. Maybe we need to say Redspin Sports Entertainment. All right. But I want to like just suggest that everyone checks this out. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free on there. But it's holy crap! It's like these idiot bozo Nazi like guys were like thought that they could do a training exercise by and then letting these like captured Soviet tank drivers and like turret gun guys train basically using a tank that didn't have any it was didn't have its weaponry and all that. And let like the new cadets coming up to be in the German army, train it against them, against like these really extremely well established and really accomplished, like this trio, or I think it might have been 4 of them actually, of young men that were like in the Red Army, and it went wild from there. But overall, just like the in terms of the way the graphics are done in here, the reality, seeing the way tank warfare is done, and just also seeing the way they literally what they did to some Nazis. I thought it's pretty inspirational little flick. Check out the trailer here. And by the way, this is a Russian film, and so of English subtitles, all right, from 2019.
Herr Reichsführer, die russischen Panzer werden bald gegen unsere Grenzen anstürmen. Wenn wir keine geeigneten Gegenmaßnahmen ergreifen, wird es brenzlig für das Reich. Ich brauche einen Offizier, der überlebt. Wer ist das? Lange nicht gesehen, Soldat. Ich gebe dir eine Chance. Du stellst eine russische Panzerbesatzung zusammen.
Нам предстоит драться на этом танке. По нам будут бить боевые. Ну что, как гладиаторы, что ли?
Ты что задумал?
А ты нагадайся.
Бежать на танке с полигона? Это все. Каюк. Бандера прямо перед нами! Прямо! Заряжай!
Ich krieg dich.
Yeah, so if you need your fix of watching Nazis get lit up on the Eastern Front, with it's just superb graphic design there. Check it out. Anyways, so
Spent a lot of money in post.
What's that?
We spent a lot of money in post.
Oh, I mean, that was phenomenal, man. Like, I mean, absolutely. I can't believe it hasn't gotten more pub, probably because it's a Russian film. But now let's go back to the sports angle here, and after we got my little film recommendation in, and point out this. All right, this is wild right now. Like Professor Lou Moore, follow him on Twitter at LouMoore12. Has been talking about this a lot, and and this was retweeted by Nathan Coleman Lamb here, I guess, earlier today, and about like the racial disparities emerging in NIL sponsorships, and how it's becoming like new permutation of plantation dynamics in college sports. So if you look here, like looking to cut, waiting to see how many Black women's basketball players are offered professional representation and get paid in the new world of NIL contracts. It wouldn't be me if I didn't call out the hypocrisy. Lots of folks made statements in support of Black women's equal pay day. Yeah, this is like a whole thing that's happening. People are still acting as if like NIL means like
it solved it.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's go ahead.
No. Pick up.
It's like my biggest fear when NIL happened is coming to fruition, and that is that people are like, cool, solved it. Like, we solved this problem. We got this thing, when this was just either this was going to be the start or this was just going to kick the can down the road. Like, it was one of the two things was going to happen, and it's become kick the can down the road. We're just turning a bunch of college kids into 1099 employees, and that's what they're going to do. And it's going to work for a small fraction, and everyone else is going to be left out. But the NCAA was officially allowed to do the one thing that mattered to them, protect their money. There's no sharing with this. There's no, it is so, and that's the thing. Like, we all wanted, like, we're all happy that like something happened, but like they were going to use this as this wedge to do this. Right. Like, because they wanted to protect their money, as where I know both of you agree, like, yeah, unionizing and sharing the money you make on these TV contracts, sharing the money you make as a university is the best way to do this. So they chose the one thing that wouldn't touch their money. and let people go out and make their own new money that doesn't touch their revenue. End of story. And like I said, we are quickly going down that road. And it's just, it's sad to see, because we didn't want to, like, I don't think, like, nobody who fought for NIL to happen thought, and then that's where it ends. And clearly they want this to end here.
Well, I mean, of course, but I mean, I also wondering too, like, in terms of like this whole such about amateurism. I mean, like, we need to define clearly. I mean, I guess it's like age 18, right? You're an adult, right? Because before that, like, because you hear some people saying like, oh, well, you know, high school athletes, you know, I mean, we need to clearly define. I think it's like when you're an adult, basically, right? That you're talking about then that like any labor that happens after you turn 18, I think is, you know, basically roughly when you finish high school or college, that's where, like, essentially any athletic labor after you're like 18 years old, man, like to say it's not professional when you're spending that much time on it. Anything beyond intramural stuff where you're just like truly going and just signing up with your friends and stuff to play on your own, but that there's like larger, much bigger factors in play, much bigger prizes to play, that needs to be clearly defined, right? And so that, like, we clearly articulate what it is that, like, these demands need to be. People understand, like, that it's going to be college sports are, you know, especially major college football. We're already seeing it happen right now, that there's going to be the whole separate league. We're talking like between that's 50, 60 programs, and the modern, you know, what we're seeing, the modern iteration of that right now with this like realignment is just the first shot across the bow. I mean, in the post NIL world, I think, but it's all TV contracts we're seeing. You know, it's like there's going to be, you're looking at like ACC teams like Clemson and Florida State now, by staying in the ACC, which they kind of have to till 2036, unless they get, you know, changes to that contract. With ESPN, they're going to be taking in like less than half of these other schools, right? So that's like there's going to be a bigger and bigger like incentive for like the big money schools and conferences like the ACC that are nowhere near the Big Ten, SEC. It's going to be greater and greater consolidation. It's to the point where it ends up with almost like an AFC, NFC type breakdown in college football, and we're going to just lay bare, like, you know, I don't know. I guess like UConn women's basketball, there'll be some instances of women athletes getting, you know, NIL deals, but I mean, I'm sorry, I don't see it being like this, you know, big business spending that much money on women's basketball like nationwide in this country. Like, I mean, I don't know, Mike, what do you think about the way?
I do think it's much. I do think it's. I mean, the same type of inequality you see in the sports. I mean, I think NIL potentially can exacerbate those same inequalities, especially when it comes to like women's sports. You know, like you said, Nate, like UConn, you know, women's basketball. You know, I don't think they're going to be short of like opportunities for those players. But you know, I agree with Justin. I think, of course, you know, the big money booster, TV contract. You know, especially with like the expansion of the SEC, adding Oklahoma and Texas, you know, I mean, it's going to be a lot of money floating around. So I think they think that this is the end, you know, but I don't think they understand how things work when workers invent something, you know, they don't just stop there.
Yeah.
You know, like the players aren't just going to be like, oh, it's great, you know, I'm done.
Yeah. How many? Yeah. Yeah, Nate.
I mean, I hate to say it. A lot of them are, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're never going to have like players like that are playing college football. It's going to be a minority that are going to be like, you know, involved in labor and stuff. I mean, that's what it is in any business. It's never going to be like the. But what's going to happen though is as this goes on and the contradictions are still, you know, there very much, and like the inequities become clear as this thing kind of settles in. Yeah, you're going to start seeing new fault lines emerge and like in a big way. But I just see with the conference realignment stuff, it's just a great metaphor for like how capitalist sport just like it can kill itself off. Like we're talking about earlier, that whole thing about the irony of like, you know, being so powerful and trying to further entrench that power within capitalism that you have to try to be looking for new market share, right? That's the logic of the system. But yet you can't oblige yourself in doing it. And they're going to get to a model here where you're going to be really like, it used to be they could like hold up the idea of the student athlete when they didn't have name, image, and likeness. They didn't have the disparities we have now with these TV contracts. I mean, I don't think people fully understand Duke basketball and Kansas basketball, these like blue bloods make nothing compared to like mid-major like mid-level like Power 5 schools, all right? Because there's revenue sharing. So Vanderbilt football actually is more valuable to like the SEC, like, you know, I mean, it's crazy that it's the sound. So like that's how much college football is just like in the stratosphere when you're looking at this from like a market. It's the notion that like any kind of equality, if that's like the objective of anything, is that anyone trying to act as if name, image, and likeness is somehow, you know, no, it's gonna allow the people that are like, you know, can have their jerseys sell in the campus bookstores that are gonna like in for a lot of people that's what they say.
Yeah,
that's fair, right? But
I got a question for you, Nate. I got a question for you, and I'm kind of curious, like, and you're in the best position to like answer this specific one. So, as a former offensive lineman, if you're playing now and you're watching your quarterback get these offers, get these NIL deals, and you're protecting that quarterback week after week, and nobody on that offensive line is getting these same sort of deals, at what point, I'm asking because I don't know what that mentality, you know, and where that would lead you, but like, is that something where you go, all right, you know, like he deserves it and I don't, or do you?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm legitimately asking.
At the college level, yeah. I mean, like they're gonna, as long as he like takes you out, like buys you dinner or something every once in a while. I don't think like, yeah, there might be a few that like get it, but at the same time, then it needs to be a larger critique, because it can't just be like, oh, NIL is for, that's what NIL is, like in its essence, right? I mean, it's not like, oh, this is outrageous. It's like, no, the alternative of that is like, we can't lose the momentum to talking about like unionization of college athletes, right? So unless it's centered around that, there's no framework for NIL not to have that outcome, you know? So I mean, that's how I would say it. That's why it's got to continuously be put out there and reinforced that, like, part of the Brett Kavanaughs of the world, and the reason those types sided with this is purely to put unionization of college athletes on the back burner. They hope forever, right? That's not going to be the case, but it definitely has had that effect for the short term, without a doubt.
Yeah, and tapping into the fire of those players that are overlooked. And keeping the talk alive. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Let's see what's on the chat here. Anyways, I'm going to pull up the story real quick. I just see I'll put a couple in here, and let's just do like kind of, you know, some media criticism or just media response stuff, because I think this piece is interesting. And then I see the ones Mikey put in there too. So let's do a little read and react time. I think this one's not too long here, but I saw this come across. This just got published today in firstandpen.com. This guy's Marcus Smith. It's a piece. Empowered Black football players are flexing their smarts to get their worth, and I think it's interesting, especially like Richard Sherman being cited in this right now, given the recent events. But you know, it's good. It shows how there is. We'll check it out and respond. All right, so I'll go ahead and read from this. It's not too long. The NCAA's recent adoption of name, image, and likeness (NIL) policy allows student athletes to earn revenue through endorsement deals. It's legislation that will help Black athletes in particular. These new financial opportunities increase the need for providing financial literacy to student athletes and their families. The education would empower student athletes to develop stronger business acumen at a younger age, enabling them to more effectively navigate the complex world of sports sponsorships. You already see there, like, and look, it's true. Like, part of this is all about like building your brand, your business. So then within capitalism, like this is not going to like in and of itself do anything to move the needle towards unionization. In fact, if anything, it's going to make the incentives like huge in the favor of not unionizing, right? So I'll keep going here. And like, I'm not criticizing it because like what's even been said straight up, like they need to have strong financial literacy in this world, and given the situation and business acumen, it's just the reality of the way things are right now. But anyways, and ultimately empowering them to positively impact their friends, family, and community. College football drives the most revenue for schools, right? We know that, but NFL eligibility requirements restrict movement to the next level. So to be eligible for the NFL draft, players must have been out of high school for at least 3 years. They've used up their college eligibility before the start of the next college football season. Underclassmen and players who have graduated before using all their college eligibility may request the league's approval to enter the draft early, which must be least 3 years removed from being graduated from high school. All right. So before the introduction of NIL laws, revenue-driving college football players were not compensated for their labor. And let's be clear, they still aren't like compensated for their labor per se. They're paid for branding agreements and, you know, name, image, and likeness, you know, compensation. But anyways, popularity. Right, exactly. And just the whims of like who boosters like. Yeah, popularity in that sense. You know, you got boosters that are influential, who they like. That's who's going to get the deals, right? But now all athletes should receive financial literacy education to navigate NIL opportunities and potentially negotiate professional contracts. Most athletes will initially still hire agents, but some will not. And the impact from that could be tremendously liberating for Black athletes, right? Black people. So Lamar Jackson is the next in line for one of the biggest contracts in NFL history, probably somewhere between Patrick Mahomes at $45 million per season and Dak Prescott's $40 million per season. Lamar Jackson currently does not have an agent. All right. His 4-year, $9 million rookie contract was negotiated by a combination of his mother, Felicia Jones, who he refers to as his manager himself, and an attorney. At the time, Lamar explained his decision by saying, I know coming in as a rookie, agents don't negotiate anything really. You know you're going to get the salary you're going to get, and I decided I don't need him. He's going to be taking a big cut out of my paycheck anyways, and I feel I deserve it right now. I love that, by the way. Jackson understands the rookie wage scale, which automatically slots first-year players into designated salary silos based on their draft position. This came in 2011. So Sam Bradford was the last lucky mofo to get drafted number 1 overall. In 2010, he got like more than $50 million in guaranteed money. When Cam Newton was drafted number 1 overall a year later in 2011, he got like half of that. Right? Yep. As the CPA went into place, you know, which did transfer a lot of that money to, you know, bigger contracts for veterans. But anyway,
I don't know if you saw after Richard Sherman was arrested, and I don't know if you follow like Pro Football Talk, like Mike Florio.
Yeah, I did.
But he was just fucking like a dickhead. Like as soon as Richard Sherman got arrested and he was still in jail the next day, he retweeted the article and was saying usually players' agents will drop everything they can to get him out of jail, you know. And of course, Florio, when Richard Sherman negotiated his own contract in 2018 with the 49ers, he criticized them for doing that. You know, like a lot of the sports media, especially NFL, they're locked in real close with NFL agents.
Oh, big time. I mean, that's what they get. That's where that's where their sources are. And let's not forget, like Mike Florio is an attorney. All right, that's his trade. He went into sports media, so he's absolutely going up there, you know, doing a little act for, you know, he's putting on for the people that, you know, grease his pockets, right? Yeah. I mean,
the ambulance chasers.
Look, I mean, some agents do a lot more than
I agree.
Others, I'll put it that way. But you're right. The process is yeah.
Jalen Ramsey's agent, David. He's really good at his job.
I want to throw something out there though. Like this is like a little like, you know, random King County knowledge, but like that's really shitty that they use that to spin it in the agent's way, because here's just a King County rule,
which is
Seattle,
by the way, Seattle's
which is if you're booked into jail, no matter who you are, like what crime, whatever, you cannot even have the opportunity for bail until you get a chance to go in front of a judge. And he was arrested, I believe, on a Tuesday, and there literally wasn't a judge available to see him until Thursday. So you're saying that you took the fact that like it could have been the president of the United States, like in King County, the rule obviously would have made a difference for the president of the United States. But you know what I'm saying? King County as a rule says, no, nobody. Like we have bail, but like you don't get to go unless you get to go in front of a judge. And the earliest he could get was Thursday. And you're telling me that like this guy hopped on this, like that loophole to say, look at how much he's disliked. Like, I just think it's crazy that they use that. Like, that's the only reason. As soon as he went in front of a judge, the judge was like, yeah, man, you're out. You know, like this is a clear no-brainer. Like you are released.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's just like as Nate said, you know, the sport, especially NFL sports media, I mean, they're just tied to these agents who make money hand over fist off the players. I mean, you know, there's good agents out there, and as an industry, I mean, that's the profession. I mean, they need players to choose not to be self-represented, because the more players self-representing themselves, the less money it is. So especially when you got like a guy like Lamar Jackson who's negotiating a mega contract representing himself, I mean, that's going to set a standard, and honestly, look at Patrick Mahomes' contract, how much he's making. I mean, low key, there's been talks, and he kind of low key probably signed a Scottie Pippen like contract, given like how much.
I don't know. It's still over 500 mil, bro. I mean,
yeah, it's guaranteed, but like
versus
like
7 years, 18.
Yeah, it's like very.
Well,
It's like kind of like like the NBA, for example, with the guaranteed contracts, like the superstar model in the NBA, which has kind of shown itself to be more, in essence, when you talk about football, more freedom for the player, is to sign a very short-term mega contract, like 3 years, 2 years, 100 million. You know what I'm saying? Like, the shorter the contract, the higher, when the market resets, you can go make some more money. So Patrick Mahomes locked himself into that. Not saying that not a bad thing, but let's say Nate, we're Jags fans. Let's say Trevor Lawrence is like super, as good as they say he is. How much money is he gonna make on his second contract?
Oh,
a lot.
Right.
A lot.
Right. So it's like, like he, good for Patrick Mahomes, good for Dak Prescott, good for Lamar Jackson negotiating himself. And I think Josh Allen's going to be another. He has an agent, of course, but I think like Lamar Jackson, what he's doing is trend setting in the sense that he's representing himself and he's going to secure himself a major contract that's going to.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to reset the market, but it's going to have a major, profound effect on what other players coming after them, make.
Yeah. Anyways, I agree. That's all spot on. So we see here that between 40-45 million per season is about where Lamar will probably land. When you're talking like Trevor, though, if he plays the way we foresee him playing, I don't see any way he's possibly a bust. I mean, he's the most surefire like not bust quarterback I've seen come through the draft since maybe Peyton. I mean, like 98. I don't know. That's my take on it. But anyways,
you weren't a big Blaine Gabbert fan. I think that was. I
was not a big Blaine Gabbert. Man, get out of here with that. That's just not. That's some fake news right there. I mean, straight up.
He wasn't in the border. You thought his athletic ability would.
He's got a nice gig right now as TB12's backup. By the way, he's just sitting there kind of.
Blaine Gabbert, yeah. Man, I thought was he a free agent?
No, he's with the Bucks now. He's TB12's backup again. Yeah.
What is like Kyle Trask, third string?
Yeah, third or fourth. I mean, he'll be they'll have him down there somewhere. Man, he balled out against Georgia that game last year. It kind of shows if he would have kept playing like that, he would have been he might have brought the Heisman home.
Well, isn't it wild, Nate? We did some reconnaissance at that game with our mask on amongst this rambunctious.
Well, I remember just like some of the Georgia fans we were like super distant, but like and that you had like groups of them just like getting super pissed at the workers in the stadium for just like telling them to put their mask on, and I'm like, yo, we shouldn't even be here right now, but this game's going on anyways.
There's a game being played.
And you're sitting here like, going off about how you like you're wasted out here in like early November 2020. I mean, it's just disgusting. Yeah, so whatever. But the one thing I want to put off here is like, yeah, he's right that like, with the rookie sliding scale, my larger point there is that like there isn't much to negotiate anymore. And to Mike's point there, and like and Justin also another way, is like, yeah, agents have to come together as like a class essentially, like the way there's unions for other professions, and make sure that it is widely seen and very noticeably clear to everybody that anytime a player doesn't have an agent in a situation where having one could have benefited him in that situation, that is going to be broadcast, that they are going to be lampooned for it, and that they're going to be like, and it's going to be made clear why not hiring an agent is a big mistake, right? So I hope heard that, but that's definitely a huge part of the need for like them as a profession and looking out for each other to make sure that like, you are going to castigate and point out like, Richard Sherman's case. He needed an agent.
I want to throw just one quick thing out there real quick about, fan culture, cop culture, and this Richard Sherman thing really quick. One of the big things that they tried to like make, and this was in a lot of Seattle press. I don't know if this was national press, but they tried really hard to make this like a heartwarming part of the story. And it's local news, so like obviously local news works hand in hand with police departments all the time. But
Right.
they tried to they took this angle to where, and clearly he was not in a good state. He drank 3 bottles of liquor that night, according to his wife. I don't know if anyone here has ever drank 3 bottles of liquor. Like, this wasn't cans. I mean, we're talking bottles. You're not in the best place. But this cop came at him with the heartwarming story of, when I was a kid, I rooted for you in the Legion of Boom. And then the story is like, and Richard Sherman then later took a swing at that cop. And I couldn't help but kind of smile over that, because I get what they were trying to do. They're trying to like humanize this cop on this fan side, right? Like, think about how ingrained like that is. Like, that was supposed to get Richard Sherman to be like, that's why I do it. You, white guy fan. You know what I mean? Like this way of trying to like of emphasizing this cop story. Like, they interviewed this cop in like 3 papers. And he was like, yeah, I just really tried to tell him, like, I mean, I was like a huge fan. I had your jersey when I was a kid. Like, when you're in this state, like, I'm sorry, man, like, it's still just person going through a crisis and a cop being sent to handle it. Like, how did you think that was going to go? You know what I mean? When you were going to like take that angle. And anyway, it just shows like the fan culture and like the way that like that cop approached that. It's kind of like, I'm the fan, I own you. Like, my story is supposed to get you to come down. Yeah. Like, why are you still being aggressive?
Right. Like, how dare you, like, for me to show how much, like, you were my hero, that should immediately make you then feel the obligatory need to indulge my, like, my infantile fandom. Right. And by doing whatever I say.
And to be fair, like, I will point out one other quote that his wife said. She said, when Richard left, he said, if the cops come, I will fight them. I just want to like that right there should be admissible in court. He should be able to use that as like look, I called this shot. All right. Like, why did you handle it this way? Like, nobody was hurt except for Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so I'm going to go back to this a little bit here. That's all true. But, agents usually receive like 3% of a player's salary. So, like, to be over $1 million, if you're talking about the $40 million contract range, it's actually more than 3% for a lot of them. But anyways, false assumptions of the black athlete. Athletes are often criticized for how they spend their money. But there's significantly less positive press when they try to retain their hard-earned money. Instead, there have been historical assumptions that black athletes aren't smart or capable of managing their own finances. So when Richard Sherman negotiated his 3-year, $39 million contract with the 49ers in 2018, there were numerous people in the media and sports media, and I'll link to this article here. Maybe they throw that in the show notes, perhaps, Justin. But in the media that came out against Sherman, that the criticism prompted Sherman to write a letter in response. And I think this is where it really gets interesting. He goes, you got a lot of people out there running their mouths and bashing me for having the audacity to think I'm qualified to negotiate my own contract. Like, who do they think I am? Well, I'm the one looking out for myself and my family. Agents negotiate bad deals all the time. And while I don't think every player should negotiate his own contract, it's not for everybody, I felt I was up to the task. And whether you think it's a good deal or a bad deal right now, the incentives give me the potential to make it a great deal over the length of the contract. In the end, Sherman got paid. But as you go forward here, you see that there was a concerted effort yet again by like sports media to point out how reckless this was, right? How dangerous this was. And, so I'll just skip over that. Like, and the article goes on to say, actually, given his age 30 and he was returning from a devastating Achilles injury, an agent might have advised him differently, recommended Sherman take an incentive-laden contract. But Sherman was smart enough to recognize his value and fight for it. Yet his success story received much less praise than the ridicule he received 3 years earlier. So instead of using Sherman's story to empower athletes, articles like, look at this, Richard Sherman won a risky bet on himself that not every NFL player should make were written to diminish his approach. I wondered who published this. You see here?
Yeah.
SB Nation. There you go. Good old SB Nation, Sports Blogger Nation. Just your everyday, just like guy living in his basement, right? Just sports blogging. That's it, right?
They don't have any type of interest to make sure that players don't do that. Yeah.
So here, coming up next is, the next example is Mike Sampson's favorite player, Russell Okung, resident Bitcoin and libertarian cryptocurrency expert. Anyways,
former Seattle Seahawk, huh?
Offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. Yeah. He goes, but the article goes on to say we can learn from athletes like Bobby Wagner, great linebacker for the Seahawks, who acts as his own agent and is currently one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL at approximately $18 million a year. But the absence of stories about his success protects the current power dynamic associated with black athletes and white institutions. I think that's like a powerful paragraph right there, because why is it that more people don't know about Bobby Wagner having been his own agent? Why don't we hear about these? We only hear about stories like this when it's something going really badly for an athlete, and it's not an accident, right? So framing these stories, and it's kind of what we said right here, in a positive light would empower more black athletes. Oh, we can't have that, right? It would inspire them to learn, take risks, understand the marketplace and their value, and then to retain the money they earn after surviving 3 years of profitless college football. Not profitless anymore, for some at least. All right. By emphasizing the misses and diminishing the successes, the stereotypes plaguing black athlete intellect are maintained. This prevents the liberation of black athletes, their families, and black people in general. I don't know. So Mike then goes on to the Russell Okung example here, but anything you want to respond to there? No.
Russell Okung. I mean,
I don't mean about. I haven't said anything about him yet, but just the
you think at Oklahoma State he got up with T. Boone Pickens and he just learned about right wing ideology? And
either that or that guy. What was his name? Ben Powell, that I got in that big argument with at Florida State when he came from the Koch brother funded Free Market Institute Research Institute in Lubbock, Texas. The guy was working there and he was trying to tell me how the virtue of sweatshops was his argument, that sweatshops are these great things because they're helping people develop skills and grit and the attitude they need to
tenacity.
And how his grandmother in Lowell, Massachusetts, working in these I forget, textile plants or whatever it was. It was that was just part of the process of development. And then now, look, I'm here with a nicer standard of living because things just magically get better over time.
It's just fascinating how a fucking intellectual think tank fucker doesn't see the class that he's currently occupying. They're like, oh, we need the textile workers. Keep working.
How can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps unless you learn how to sew them to your boots?
And the person who wrote that, literally, this is why I think people just classes, everything. The person who wrote that bootstrap.
So
the person that wrote that bootstrap, wasn't working in a textile mill and had the ability to write it. You know what I'm saying? Like same as this guy has the ability to be a think tanker, but I don't know.
Is Mike becoming a class reductionist now?
Russell Okung, man, he's his last name fits. I didn't like.
Tell us what you mean.
Don't repeat it, Nate or Justin. But his even around the Black George Floyd stuff, he was just so fucking annoying, man. He was just you got to take individual responsibility, cops on individuals. He didn't say that, but I'm sure he thought it. Now he wants everything in Bitcoin. So good for him.
I wonder. I actually know a good number of Nigerians up here, and it's interesting because there's a lot of talk within there's so many different tribes in Nigeria, and there's this history with the Igbo people and how they get marginalized within Nigerian society because and part of it goes back to them seceding from Nigeria in '67, the Biafran republic that actually was had South Africa as one of its allies, and these other like right wing racist regimes around the world. But there's still the Igbo people. I think Russell Okung comes from that. But there's a lot of, because of the stereotypes about like the scam emails and stuff like that. It's weird. It's like because it like that stuff gets injected into it a lot still, and a lot of it comes from within like inner Nigeria and sort of like conflict within. Some of it's north south, Christian Muslim, class dynamic, all sorts of like dynamic histories over time. But I think people have like come at Russell Okung as being like a scammer or something before, and so it's just weird because like he is like he's like Mike said, he's a libertarian, free market dude who's just like this personal responsibility gospel. But then he also will like get attacked and like I think some pretty racist type stuff too. You'll see.
No, absolutely. But he also came and played. He also came and played for the coach that loves Jordan Peterson. So
there you go. Oh yeah, well Pete Carroll, he's just such like he's just so intellectual. He's just like he's cerebral, Justin. He's listening to Jordan Peterson like audiobooks, as he's walking on and off the practice field, just getting a little inspiration.
It's it's wild as you've been talking about this. I couldn't help but think about the fact that like it's great that this article is shedding light on how this story of acting as your own agent gets blasted by the media, but like they cover all kinds of success stories that like don't fit their narrative, right? Like, and you talking about like African American athletes being bad with money. Marshawn Lynch hasn't touched $1 of his playing money since contract 2 with the Buffalo Bills, and like. Google that. You won't find a story where they're like, look at how you can do this. Look at how you can. Nope. They just don't talk about that. Like it's insane that what they'll hide for the narrative that they want.
Right. Yeah.
I've also never drank 3 bottles of liquor. I just saw that Nate's comment. I never.
Yeah. I mean,
not 3.
That's
not 3.
Drink, right. I mean,
not 3.
And by a bottle, you mean like the whole deal, right? Like you're talking about a handle, right?
Good Lord.
Well,
3 handles?
Are you talking about mini bottles here, Justin? I don't know what you mean.
Nobody out there try to drink 3 handles. You will die.
You will die. Absolutely.
You will die.
Well, people will say they drink something like that just because they're passing around. They had a few switch from one, a few from another, right? And it's kind of like college party type stuff. But anyways, I put that in the chat notes there, and then I also want to pull up real quick. Mike shared. Mike, which one of these should we go with first? There, the Dallas News one.
Share the second one. Yeah, share the second one. This is title of this article: Texas high school football didn't have to lose Quinn Ewers. So I don't know if y'all have seen any film.
Oh yeah, man. He's the mullet man.
His arm is interesting. Like he kind of has this weird side wind up thing, but he has a cannon. So he's supposed to be the next big QB prospect. He's so big that he was able to literally like forego his senior year of high school and go to Ohio State. And at Ohio State, he's able to take advantage of potential NIL opportunities that currently in Texas, due to the structure of, the statewide regulations and rules, I think it's called the University Interscholastic League, UIL. It doesn't permit students, especially high school athletes, to do NIL deals.
Right.
It's kind of interesting, man, to see the impact of, let's say, the top recruit in the nation, a year from now, leaving his senior year, what I'm saying, to go to college where he can make some money, not like we talked about it earlier. He's not getting paid. College players aren't getting paid, but, he doesn't necessarily need the money, he says, but apparently his parents thought it was he couldn't forego the financial opportunities, shit, good for them. They're like, time to cash in. I don't spend $20,000 on all his camps and shit, whatever. I say that to say, I think this is going to actually have a huge impact, especially in states where you have superstar superstar high school athletes who are being highly recruited. I mean, I think you're going to see in a lot of ways, some type of damn, I actually bring my own phone. You want to see like a shift, and even in high school, like the players getting something. NIL isn't what we want to do, but like the more top recruits you start, the more top players you start losing, and who have the option to leave school their senior year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. I've never heard of that before. Like I've heard of like, you remember like back in the, when I guess Nate, you remember when you played? There was a QB who signed with LSU, but ended up playing at Jacksonville State. Ryan Perley.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't, and he got kicked off the team at LSU. Ryan Perley,
Right. But he was like, oh, he's so good that he could play in the NFL right now. That was the whole narrative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was a very undisciplined player. I'll leave it at that.
Right. But I just had to say, I mean, shoot, like, I mean, I don't know, man. I think it just has. I think this, in my thought, this player, top recruit for going, and if he's successful at the next level, I think you might see, like, high school kids, for example, are becoming way more aware of like themselves as an athlete. Like, if you look at their like Twitter pages, they're like professional shit. Like, it's just crazy. Like,
they're much more health conscious now. You used to have the stereotype of like the partying, like college, big time jock, and all that. Like now, like a lot of cats coming up, like are like on point with like taking care of their body, even at like, a young age. It's like there's been a zeitgeist like shift within.
It's
like,
weird, because like you go to any top high school recruit page, they got a link to their game film. They have like a link. They have like how many stars they have. Like anytime they get an offer, there's a social media post created with like, like I just received an offer from University of Florida. Then it has a picture of Tim Tebow, person. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
And like, so a lot of these athletes, even from an early age, 16 to 15, they're building their like personal brand already and getting popular. So it's like a guy like this guy, Quinn Evers. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many Twitter followers he has, but I don't know, man. It's kind of interesting thinking about like the idea of child labor from like high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I brought up earlier. Like, where do we draw the line here? Because it's like at a certain point, we want people to be able to like, I support NIL for sure, but at the same time, I don't think it's a good thing we start seeing like 8th graders like get picked up by like payday loan ad or something.
Right, but then think about it. But then think about it. If that 8th grader, let's say a 9th grader, what was like Noah Devine doing for like his team, like he's a famous runner, star, probably had the best highlight film of any running back in high school.
It's still the most unbelievable thing, like from like Naples, Florida, like Fort Myers, that area. And,
we went to West Virginia, grades and stuff. But a kid like that, I mean, how much money could he have made for himself and his kids in high school?
I mean, the amount of like adult men that like got tons of clicks on their sites and like all sorts of like all kind of stuff from just writing about and covering Noel Devine, I mean, is unbelievable. I mean,
what year was that?
2007.
2006, 2007. Yeah. He was like I was class of 07. I think Nate was 05.
Yeah.
I remember like Chris Rainey around that time, but he was like he lived with Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was Guardian.
Which is like they're both from Fort Myers. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, like, he as a player, I mean, he had like he had children in high school. He had to take care of them. You know what I'm saying? He probably got some kickbacks. I'm not going to speculate, but let's be real. Yeah. Let's say he could have made money in the legal way, through through having the ability to make money. Because it's like, I understand the point about like, you don't want like 8th graders to be thinking about that shit. But then if people are making money off that 8th grader, they should have, what I'm saying? Them or their family should have the ability to like, because like great high school championship programs, like especially in Texas, state of Texas, how much money does that high school program like make for that local community, for that city, for the small businesses in that area? You know what I'm saying? But how much? What did the players get out of it? They get a chance to get recruited by a school where their labor will get exploited again. So shit, I don't know. Like I think it's interesting to think about. From the standpoint of like just in general, like how like we talk about college labor as slave labor, which it is. You're not getting paid for it. We don't really talk about like even high school sports, like major high school sports being a form of child labor. We don't really think about that, but it does. It produces a lot for the schools and the local community. It produces money for them. So like, why do those players, But yeah.
All right. I mostly agree. To play just slight devil's advocate, like I'll say, there's an argument that like the only reason people like football or violent sports and stuff is because like, we're in a society that like, holds that up and conditions you from a young age. But then I think back, even what would make, like, there's a reason like why in the park, I think even when we're like 6, 7 years old, like in my neighborhood at least, we would all want to go out and like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like hyper masculine, rambunctious male, but we love tackling and hitting. Like, it's like this notion that like people like the only reason people play these violent sports is because like there's like these like capitalists that are exploiting them and want them to like put their bodies on the line for them. I think that's an oversimplification,
dude.
Like, people like Justin, you look like you disagree.
No. I don't disagree with that at all. I do think that comes from the fact that in this country and learning its history, understanding like where it comes from, even the history we're taught, even as like middle schoolers, you can at least put together one thing. Nobody ever got anything in America without blood, without violence, without blood, without hurting other people, without actually just going out and taking it. That's kind of our national attitude, right? Like, you want that over there, just go take it. I will say that I think that there's a violence within our society that like doesn't exist in all societies, because everything that we have, everything that like this country's gained, it gained through hurting somebody else. And I do think that's part of it.
It's not unique.
I don't think
to America.
It's conscious. I think it's subconscious, but it's not unique to certain societies. I definitely think that there's others that didn't.
I don't know. There's different sports, but there is something like maybe it's just primal. Like like some people are more primal than others. I don't know, man. It's obvious like exploitation plays a big role. Anyone that you listen to like what we talked about, but I'm just trying to like think back and put myself in like the mind, because you're right. Where can you start consciously like differentiating between like just things that you just like, because you like them, versus like things that you've kind of like been conditioned to like, in some sort of way. It's very difficult when you really try to go back and figure out like where the lines are drawn on those.
Peep Jeffrey's most recent comment, like that's the thing. Like I remember as a small kid, like just knowing that, like, I don't know, kick someone's ass. Like,
yeah.
That's American.
Well, just if you want to like not be a wuss, right? You got to stand up and fight sometimes. I hear it even like, it's not entirely untrue, but like, until you punch a bully in the face, right? Like, they're going to keep coming back, right? Like, you basically, and like parents will reinforce that a lot. The idea is like that bullies are usually weak people that like are doing that as a way to, take the spotlight off them. But a lot of times, like when they get punched in the, whether you're talking literally or figuratively, sort of like fighting back in some sort of way, like they're going to keep coming at you, right? And I think that when so it's weird. It's violence is not, it can't just be homogeneously classified, man. There's so many, like what kind of violence it is and what purpose it's serving plays a big role in like my analysis of it, at least.
I harken back to this college exercise we had to do, right? Where it was like, is America violent because it's violent, or is America violent because its media is violent? And I raised my hand and shut down the whole debate by going, it was violent before there was media. So I guess this isn't a chicken and egg you thought it was, Professor. Like, you know what I mean? Like this was not, this isn't a chicken and egg. Like, we literally arrived violence,
right? But
took it, slavery, violence, it's here now. End of
But I
story.
mean,
it's just,
it'd be naive to act as if like violence was like born because with America. I mean, it's like it's a unique kind of violence, the settler colonial type of violence that's like shaped the world that we live under now. But I mean, all cultures, even cultures like people from oppressed nationalities and stuff, have had there's class dynamics in play. I mean, it's one of the biggest misnomers. So people with slavery, for instance, it's like you hear these idiot racists like right wingers a lot of times, and they talk about slavery. They'll like point out how there's slavery in other parts of the world, like true. But what's different about the kind of slavery practice in the Americas and whatnot was it was a racialized slavery that was like specifically engineered to fit the designs of like the new opening up the new world, right, quote unquote, to capitalist development, which slavery was a very much integral part of, the driver of. But the notion that but they'll be like, oh, there were like slavery in Africa and slavery in Europe and other parts. Well, yeah, but it was more like there's a war going on between maybe two tribes over like territory, whatever, and you lost, so you're like a prisoner of war. It wasn't like because the color of your skin creates this racialized system that like perpetually, relegates you to that position. Like that is a huge distinction. Like in terms of like, the way slavery has what slavery is and what makes the kind of slavery that was practiced here and what is now, the United States and before it was the United States, the insidious, thing it is. I mean, it was the notion of like a sort of societal-wide sanctioning of a racialized hierarchy that's totally different than the kind of slavery that had been practiced based on like, you lost the war, you're a POW, so you're going to like disturb us. There wasn't an idea because like you're of a certain, nationality that you're forever like a slave because of that, or your race or color of your skin. That's major difference.
I think that there is a natural, or an instinct to want to say, this isn't unique. This isn't unique to me, and try to find other reasons. Like, I think one of the things that I always find is interesting is that when you talk about like colonialism, settler colonialism, and the founding of this country, is that someone will always be like, yeah, but like the tribes here, that there were also like imperial tribes that were here that took things over. And you're like, okay, they had 20,000 years and it wasn't like we got here and one tribe was here. There were hundreds.
Yeah, that's over the course of like long-standing human development and histories that are playing.
Exactly. They managed to not do it.
Yeah.
But
I do think that it doesn't mean. There was a very American specific type of oppression, and it's still very much playing itself out. And the violence is absolutely cooked in the DNA of this country. But I'm just saying, it's not like it was just born here. You see, people would look at the European context and the wars. They were fighting against each other before
that's
they
the point.
came over here.
And that's the point. It was Europeans. There was no such thing as an American when they landed.
Exactly. Yeah. So real quick, I just wanted to show you real quick because I think Justin, just Quinn Ewers would be like if you were going to Penn State, you'd have your new favorite player of all time. I could see y'all just broing out in another life. But let's see what you think of Ewers here. Check out especially analysis of his hair. For those of you who don't know, the Elite 11, it's the top 11 high school quarterbacks in the country. Go out to California for like a week and kind of get coached up and all that kind of stuff. So here it is. Future Buckeye star Quinn Ewers.
In this sort of environment, you're kind of, you're always the guy that everyone wants to talk about. But you're out here with a lot of guys that are in the same league as you, kind of. Does that challenge you in a different way than maybe some of the other events you've done throughout the last couple of years?
Yeah, obviously it challenges everybody a lot more. But honestly, I feel like everybody just came out here and had more fun than they had at these other type of camps, and they kind of just rode with the flow and had a lot of fun out here.
You're a very competitive person, and you had a pretty good night throwing the ball, and then the last one you had was not your best throw.
Yeah,
right?
No.
How do you take something like that and then go talk to a sports psychologist for an hour and a half? And then how does that impact you heading into tomorrow?
Yeah, obviously it sucks not going too far deep in that little competition, but just motivation for tomorrow.
What are they going to have you doing?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I love this reporter guy here. You know, like, what are they going to have you doing tomorrow exactly? Like, you know, what are they going to have you doing? Like, and then tell me about your sports psychologist. You know, that's the thing. I remember, like, that's a big area that, like, is shifted in a great way. Because I remember one of my teammates, like, high school basketball, like, we still found it was like, he had a sports psychologist. And at the time, it was like, what a weirdo, you know? Like, that's like, you know, like, I don't know why. I wasn't really saying it. I just remember that was, like, a lot of the banner. And you think of it now, it's like the fact that it's so normalized is a great thing. I mean, because like the idea of like there's so much to unpack, and I think a lot of if I would have like had that and it was the culture was different, coming to high school, it would have saved me a lot of heartache in terms of things I found out about myself later, right? That could have been dealt with in a lot healthier ways, I think, for sure. I think the mullet's going to probably help him bring in some nice NIL deals, though. I mean, it already is a little bit.
They'll do something with it.
Yeah, man. I mean, so Justin, you ready for him to roll into Happy Valley with that Scarlet and Gray, baby?
We haven't had Michael Robinson that broke the mold, and Penn State will never have another quarterback that lives up to that.
Michael Robinson, yeah. So he was from Hoboken, same county.
Right across. You're not like longing for the Trace McSorley era?
No, man. Michael Robinson, when he lowered his head, I mean, if you want to watch, I mean, talk about violence. Sorry, but yeah, it's in all of us, and I like to see good hits too. You talk about when he lowered his head and took on that safety in Minnesota, when he went down the sideline and that safety, that safety in his head went, he's a quarterback. He's going to step out of bounds. And he didn't, and he lowered his head, and the safety was the one that was carted off. Like, that was like,
no.
That was a moment when you went, all right, no, this dude, yeah. There's a reason he went on to the NFL to become a fullback, a Super Bowl winning fullback. Yeah, Michael Robinson broke the mold, man. Michael Robinson, had he been a few years later in the Terrell Pryor years, and when mobile quarterbacks were something you wanted, that dude would have probably been a quarterback in the NFL. But it wasn't his time.
I was speaking out of turn. It's Rashard Casey who went to Hoboken High with Carlos Perez too, who was receiver for the Gators, and he was like a superstar. Who then I remember he had a great start to his Penn State career, and then kind of fizzled, but he's still like a kind of a local legend to a lot of people up in North Jersey, at least in Hudson County, Jersey City, Hoboken area. But you remember Rashard Casey, right, Justin?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He definitely played it. Mike, what's your spot?
Yeah.
You
Penn State University.
You like the picture I picked here.
Penn State University, shout out to Penn State current president Eric Barron.
Eric Barron, yeah.
Just out of jail.
Well, with me and Nathaniel Wallace.
He was the president of Florida State when we walked for graduation. Never mind, he had just left to go to Penn State.
He had just left.
And we had
we had a bunch of protests against him,
Oh, yeah. He was the guy we constantly were protesting against.
Right. And then it's so funny. I just wanted to show Nate, can you post that image of him? It was 7 years ago, but this shit is hilarious to me.
I like the whole Max. You see, before I pull this up, y'all see Max out there with Adam Schiff, and he's Schiff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to respond.
This was funny.
I'm not going to respond to Blumenthal. I know this tactic.
Did we lose Nate?
Nate, did we lose you?
All right. Well,
hey, we lost.
Temporarily lost Nathaniel Wallace.
Hey, he's back. He's back.
I copy and pasted something into the StreamYard.
Damn, what did Adam Schiff do?
Adam Schiff was like, yo,
he ignored him. He ignored him the whole night. He just ignored him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's and Mike, maybe you can speak to that because I think they're right wing and even a lot of libs who want to go off on the SWAT their hatred of Jesse Jackson is really misplaced. Whenever people call him a sellout and stuff, I recoil because they don't understand. This guy came to the embassy when I'm reminded of this too. I remember when the Venezuela thing was going on and they were trying to not let any food get in there at all. Jesse Jackson showed up and like made sure that like food was going to get through there. He's like showed up like, you know, constantly for people didn't have, I mean, that's what the whole point Max was saying, like how like you're out here with Jesse Jackson, who's like on his last legs in life right now. Who's like, you know,
for a photo op.
And then you are and Jesse Jackson's not like really in a position to be able to like say what he wants and doesn't want in the same way. He's like, you know, he's just, you know, he's weakening, you know, his health, and Schiff is just showing up there. It's like Jesse Jackson's fought his whole life, like, you know, being anti-war and stuff too. And I'm not saying like, yeah, obviously he's not like, he's got plenty of stuff to criticize like anybody else that kind of plays the political game. But the notion that he's just another one of these like sellout type people, just like some people just like or just get
People
off.
said that about Jesse.
Yeah, like I hear like, you know, people that are like, you know, like people on the left that like always want to like just trash on everybody for not being good enough, right? You know,
I just want to say, man, you know what I mean?
No one's ever good enough. Like all we got to do is just criticize everything.
It's a general diatribe, you know what I mean? Just, you know, the left sucks, you know, the U.S. left is horrible. So it's like revolution will not come from the left. It will come from the masses, you know, which is why the focus always has to be on mass struggle. Jesse Jackson, I mean, you know, he is you know, he's a leader in the Black community who has put in decades of work supporting a lot of progressive causes. Like his presidential election run was probably the most progressive one we've seen, and that includes Bernie Sanders. You know, like Jesse Jackson supported single-payer health care. Jesse Jackson supported reparations. Bernie didn't go that far, you know what I'm saying? So Jesse Jackson's campaign for president had a lot of socialists and communists like working in it because they see it as, you know, it was the Bernie before, except with a Black candidate. I mean, Jesse Jackson, you know, when we were part of Dream Defenders, we did the Capitol occupation for 30 days after George Zimmerman was acquitted. Jesse Jackson came and supported. Jesse Jackson has caught the fire of the Zionist lobby at times. Jesse Jackson has always been, you know, any type of anti-war statement, he'll sign on to it. And even now, Jesse Jackson's organization, Rainbow Push Coalition, supports a lot of efforts around police crimes. I mean, is he perfect? Has he been perfect? Is he like a socialist? He is not a socialist, but he's about as good as you can get without being that. You know what I'm saying?
And consistent, and the whole time.
Throughout time. I mean, he's going to, you know, Jesse's going to represent what he represents, you know?
Look at Jesse up there repping it, standing right, man.
Right.
Riding the damn horse, man. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like,
you just can't win, man. You can't win sometimes with like,
I mean,
left.
You know what it is? It's because they're not rooted in anything. It's like the reality is if you, like, I get it. Just, like, when you talk about, but it's like, if you're not willing to go on strike at your own job and like take the risk of that, like some people just had this romanticized notion of like, you know, joining a union and like that, like it's this, I mean, there's so much been in my whole like professional life been involved in you know, union stuff. I mean, it's like, so the notion that like, you know, these purity tests, basically, I hate that term, but like, it is like that. It's like the idea that like you just have to go out there, go alone, and that change happens by just you know, it's not by like joining mass struggle and like by like trying to like find out what struggles are going on in your community where you live and figure out how you can help contribute to that, how you can help build something, how you can figure out what popular demands are in your neighborhood, you know, around like maybe people that are getting evicted, you know, and how to organize people in that way.
I mean, even, and I know Justin has a dip soon, so I just want to, even the point of this podcast, I mean, you know, we are all leftist, socialists, you know, we have our own political, you know, we have a very common political viewpoint. We're talking about sports from that viewpoint, which the point of it is to reach a broader base of people who, let's say, may be into sports but not into politics, but are interested in learning more about politics, you know, or maybe you're into politics but not into sports, but you're interested in learning about sports.
Yeah.
We're trying to expand past just you know, just our silos. And I think the people just got to look at everything, you know, like if you can't convince your best friend to like go with you to a protest or believe what you believe, you know, why do you think, you know, your way of doing things is going to convince a whole society of people? You
Well,
know,
because you're so good at winning the argument. You know, it's amazing to me these people that think like that people like in the Gaza Strip or like places oppressed by imperialism give a shit about whether like you win the argument with like some dude who watches like Sam Cedar or something. To them, it's like it's not a matter of all these like abstract notions of like can you convince someone within like the Excella corridor from like DC to Boston and like who's like a in the political insider class, or even like not in the insider class, but like part of like these trying to be part of the whole social movement scene and whatever it may be with DSA, Run on the Line, there's plenty of groups, but like, the notion that those that somehow the struggle it just comes from what kind of messaging you put out there and the way you're able to persuade people that are into like leftist politics. It's always going to be a minority of people that have that are going to be super engaged in reading books and following all like the revolutionary lingo. That's just always been the way. The mass, you have to get to the masses and find a way to make things resonate. And it's not going to be through like being the most radical like all the time. Like that's something that's the hardest part of it. It's
also, one last thing I think we're wrapping up. I know Justin has a dip and we got a talk. One last thing we wanted to do before we leave. Want to send our condolences to the family of Richard Trumka and AFL-CIO. He was the head of the AFL-CIO for the last decade or so. Died yesterday of a heart attack, 72 years old. There were different, ideological, let's say disagreements that folks within the labor movement always had. But I guess the one thing is, Richard Trumka led a mine worker strike with the United Mine Workers. I think it was 9,000. It was a big amount of mine workers struck.
Yeah.
There's a famous quote of him, like the judge, they were paying out strike funds and the judge was like, stop paying people to strike. And he was like, I'm not. And the judge was like, I'm going to take away your treasury. And he was like, well, take away my fucking treasury. So what, And he said that was the most liberating experience he's had. So, this was a man who had put in a lot of sweat and tears for the workers. And I think the biggest thing, what I will say is, and I think there were different critics. There's always within the labor movement.
Well, I mean, if you're the head of AFL-CIO, you're having to navigate some
a lot of shit, bro. So I will say that. But one thing I will say under Trump, and I think one thing we did see, and I think I've seen it within my lifetime in college and stuff, and Nate kind of similar, how the AFL and labor really opened up with undocumented immigrants. I think that was one of his legacies, I would say, in terms of at least organizing.
Right.
You still have some of the labor unions, which is pretty fucking racist, like some of them, like the trades and shit, still kind of backwards.
Machinists and building trades unions.
Right. But at least the national AFL was, open to that under Trump's leadership. So definitely want to say presente, Richard Trump.
Yeah. I mean, especially someone like you said, it's not like Jimmy Hoffa Jr. that's literally just riding on his dad's coattails. It's like in a situation of like Trump, he actually literally was like got his jump into this and being known by organizing mine workers and Appalachia. I think we're in PA in Pennsylvania, right? Western PA.
It's Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, man. RIP. And look, we'll be back. I want to make the last announcement on the way out. To Mike's point there, I've been, we got to get more of that going. I got something planned actually. I've talked about it before, getting my brother on in Big Game James Coleman, doing a little college football, kind of reminiscent retrospect kind of, and then we should do a whole episode on kind of union history. I've kind of had to kind of narrow the focus a little bit, like union history. Welcome to our union history telethon. We're taking calls tonight. We'll be done in about 21 days. We'll have the stream going, but no, we'd definitely do something like that, Neil. That would be dope. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean that's a good class if you got a good teacher. And Taft-Hartley is definitely one of the worst pieces of legislation ever. He actually Truman actually vetoed the damn thing, and it got overridden. That's wild to me. But no doubt, it's. But I want to just say, with Mike's point about reaching some more sports fans. I mean, I want to make it where got to kind of wear different hats with this, and I want to start to reach bigger audiences, start doing some more just regular sports stuff, and then hopefully with some of those people, you can see some of the other stuff we got, and someone will definitely be like, man, Nate's, people have lost his mind, he's crazy, or whatever, and like, and probably by extension, Justin and Mike, but you find, you got to like reach people where they're at, right? And it starts with that, and for this to be that kind of thing, we got to start having, a mixture of stuff here, and then, creating it where you got, some arguments going and some discord, and not just be an echo chamber, so to speak, right? So with that, I'm not going to go into my back stuff right now, but that's been something that's been holding me back a little bit. But
anyway, we're just hoping for good news tomorroll.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll see. They're not gonna be good. It won't be good news. It'll be like what kind of bad news? Yeah. I appreciate it.
You know what I meant.
Absolutely. I definitely know. For those you don't know, I'm getting an MRI tomorrow on the old lumbar spine. Been a few years now, so we'll see what happens there. Yeah, man. Yeah, no doubt. And about that video, last thing, I know you got to go, but what is the link to this real quick? Eric Crouch. Yeah, I watched that recently. Like, it was a replay. Justin, you can go.
The Crouch one or the Robinson one?
The Crouch one against Missouri. What was that? No, Scott Frost. Sorry. There was a 97 play. I think it was a 97, the year Nebraska split the title with Michigan, where the game was over and the receiver from Nebraska dropped the ball, but it hit his foot, and he was smart enough to kick it back behind him, and then another Nebraska receiver dove and barely caught it, forcing them to kick an extra point, go to overtime. And it's it should have, I guess, been blown dead. I mean, you're going to kick the ball up in the air. You're not supposed to allow that. But, yeah, I'll go ahead and just hold on. Let's see. Nebraska, Missouri ending. This is one of the wildest plays.
You're looking up that one? No, you're good.
Yeah. It's Matt Davis match, man.
Yeah, Jeffrey's literally no, it's Crouch against Iowa. But I get it.
I know, but I don't have the link, man. I don't. I gotta I'll have to literally search that up real quick. But you want that one instead? I don't know. I gotta show this real quick, Jeffrey. Yeah, this is
do it up.
What I think is the wildest play.
Third down. Frost to the middle. Juggle. Diving touchdown, Nebraska. Davison on the deflection. Nebraska's a point away from tying the game.
That's
so look, he's dropping it. It's over, right?
Yeah,
so the ball's out. Look, it's just out, and he's gonna kick it up in the air. And then this guy just comes out of nowhere. I mean, imagine if you're Missouri, you're already the underdog. You did everything you had to do, and then just that happens. That's pretty wild. But yeah. No need, Jeffrey, for you to apologize.
So here we go. I got two things. I got time. I'm making time to share these two plays. All right, here we go.
Let's see. Eric Crouch.
So I got them up. I'll play them back to back.
Sounds good.
All right. So here is the Eric Crouch Iowa defender play.
Ooh, yeah, that's what that got Crouch that 2001 Heisman Trophy.
Yep, like that. Good hit.
You know what's wild? This was a non-conference game back then. Because it was Big 12, or Big 10. They didn't play all the time.
All right. So, I heard the announcer say the corner. Was that a corner, not a safety?
Why aren't you sharing audio?
He has Rex Grossman's Heisman.
I mean. Rex Grossman was so good in that year. I mean, how did he not win the Heisman that year?
Jeffrey, I apologize. These two from Florida are going to always take it back to Florida. It's cool.
But, I mean, it's just blowing.
I get it. I get it.
I mean, I'm not a huge Rex Grossman fan, but he was unbelievable in college. All right.
So here's the Michael. So that was Eric Crouch against an Iowa safety. Here's Michael Robinson against Minnesota safety.
All right. Oh, all right. Yeah, I mean,
look at that. He doesn't even take a step back. Like there's no recoil in his body.
To be fair, it is Minnesota, but yeah, you're right.
I mean,
I love the jab. I love the jab, but like watch it a little closer, watch it a little slower. Watch that Michael Robinson does not take a step back. Like that's the thing. Like their momentum stops together, and one of them takes that hit, and the other just kind of walks away. That's all I'm saying. There's a reason he went on to be a fullback in the NFL and won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and now is all over NFL Network. All right. On that note, we'll have to pick this up next time, Jeffrey. Our weekly installment of Nebraska football on Redspin Sports.
Hey,
Mike,
just wait until these two learn that I lived in Florida for 3 months, but I'll never tell them where.
Wow.
Anyway,
why not? let me guess. Perry, Florida, Taylor County. No, you wouldn't even know where that is, man.
I lived there for 3 months. I learned very little about the surrounding areas.
Like, where is there, man? Like vicinity.
Estero.
Estero?
Yeah, that's just outside of Fort Myers.
All right. Yeah, that's.
It's a fire district. It's not even a town. It's a fire district.
Yeah,
you know what's funny? I've literally never been like down to like that part of Florida, like the Gulf, the Southwest, like south of Tampa.
It was wild, man. It was wild.
I went to college with a kid who went to Estero High.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that whole part of Florida. Last thing we'll say after the revolution, will probably be like, we'll give them away to another.
Yeah. No, I have nothing positive to say.
This reactionary part of Florida, besides the pandemic.
You know what? Except for they have.
Yo, I was in Miami, man. I'm sorry. Last thing, we're gonna end this. All these Cuban Libre flags. Oh my fucking god, bro! I was there like 2 days ago. It's like the BLM. It's like like in all the liberal areas, all the BLM. Like, oh, I support BLM. It was like that with Cuba. It was just annoying.
Where's it the liberal areas be like, Black Lives Matter. We believe in science. Like
Miami. In Miami, every other car is a Cuba Libre flag. It's nauseating.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And on that, they'll just like get a little look at Justin's favorite baseball player too on the way out. Oh God. There you go. SOS Cuba. Patria y Vida.
Yep. Glasses coming off. I don't even want to see that in focus. I don't even want to see that in focus, man. Like, nope.
There we go.
Nope.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right, on that unpleasant note,
for that.
You should be fine. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. We don't have to be.
That's a uniform violation.
We totally believe in like finding players.
Shut up and get off my field.
Putting political messages on my sports. Get them out of here. All right. We're out. Peace.